Hello and welcome to the Service-Based Business Society podcast. I am your host, Tiffany-Ann Bottcher. On our weekly episodes, we will dig into everything you need to know about scaling your service-based business without losing sleep. With my experience in creating over 7 figures per month and a passion for marketing, finance, and automation, this show will provide tangible tips and techniques for scaling your business. Let's get started. Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking to Sabrina Childress. She's an entrepreneur, a best-selling author, a philanthropist, and a business strategist. Over the years, her client list has included many well-known musicians, actors, actresses, political figures, medical innovators, not-for-profits. She is a PR expert. Her business, Childress Enterprises, has landed features in the Washington Post, Thrive Magazine, ABC, Fox, CBS, the list goes on. She says no matter how good you are at anything, a publicist makes you better. I think so many business owners don't realize that this is a component of the marketing strategy, that a good publicist can really level up your marketing game. And it's almost something that feels like, it's a big business thing. But realistically, getting people to know about your business, talk about your business, these are the things that help you get to become a big business. So let's welcome Sabrina and let's dive in.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you here and can't wait to discuss all of these exciting pieces with you.
I'm excited as well. I've been looking forward to it all day.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, so why don't you give our audience a little bit of background about who you are and how you got here?
Well, my name is Sabrina Childress of Sabrina Childress Enterprises, and I am a serial entrepreneur who lives her life off of her bucket list. Very unconventional to most people. So currently I've had a career in public relations for about 20 years now. And in doing so, it allows me the freedom to have other, explore other positions, other careers, things like that. So I'm also a flight attendant and
Okay.
executive director, executive director of a domestic violence organization, and on boards and co-own a clothing company that actually we use for charitable causes. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a paradigm shift.
Yes. So serial entrepreneur definitely kind of captures that. So when did that kind of, what if you think back, when did your first kind of entrepreneur what was that? How old were you when you had that first kind of entrepreneurial experience?
I honestly can say I was 9 years old.
There you go.
And I was watching a commercial, Saturday morning cartoons, right? The stuff is on and the commercials are on. And there was I don't know if you know that Empire commercial, 988-2300.
Yes.
Okay. You can't say it without singing it. And I was like, I asked my mother, why do people, why do they advertise? And she said, because they need to make more money. And from that point forward, every commercial I saw was like, oh my God, they must really need to make money because they're advertising. And then in my mind, I was like, I want to make commercials because I want to make sure people make money because they need to do that. And that was it was on from there. I know.
Good. It must be good marketing if you can still remember it, this much longer. That's, that person did a good job, that marketing expert. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. I feel like the entrepreneurs always, there's like this moment where there's a shift where it's you understand something clicks, that kind of aha moment of, entrepreneurship and kind of that transformation in your life. You talked about doing PR in addition to a number of different things. And so what types of businesses or people that are you doing PR for now?
So my latest list of clientele actually was the voice of the Oscars this year, Miss Janora McDuffie. So that voice you hear that announces all of the categories and the awards and the commercial breaks and all that fun stuff was one of my clients. And I also have Dr. Haidia Nicole Green, she created the cure for cancer literally. So right now it's in the trial phase. So there's a little laser. It's called Lant Technology, and she's amazing. Google her, Dr. Green, and then I have Dr. Brianna Gaynor, who is a clinical psychologist, but she's also a keynote speaker, and she does dynamic work with family and with families, sorry, and businesses. And yeah, so I'm pretty much working with people. And Lanesia Tyson. Oh my gosh, I can't forget Lanesia. Lanesia is number 7 on the gospel charts as
Wow.
of this week,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Awesome.
So she just released a new song and a new album. So yeah, I work the whole gamut of industry and PR.
It's interesting because certain parts of business really can be, all these different pieces. And so that's the same within our business management agency. People always say, what is your niche? Or as the Americans say, what is your niche? I always
Mm,
laugh. And
yeah.
so, and I say, well, we do service-based businesses, and I've always focused on service-based businesses, and people say that's not enough. You need to niche down. It needs to be more focused. Are you serving plumbing companies? Are you serving doctors? And I say, I like a little bit of everything. So I have always kind of pushed back on that concept, because realistically there are certain pieces that, whether it's a doctor or whether it's a keynote speaker or whatever, your piece. And I always joke, whatever the people do when they get there, the service, it doesn't really make a difference to me. I ultimately am looking at the operations and efficiency and whatnot of the business overall. So I'm not going to be here to tell anybody how to do their service or their trade when they get there. So what they do doesn't really matter.
Absolutely. I'm like, people don't, there's like this thought process, like you just said, niche down, niche down. And I know that's like the trend, but let me be
Yes.
real clear. 20 years worth of experience can let you know if you enjoy it or there's something you're really good at, you know what I mean? And you're just like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Why not? I mean, because like you just said, it's the same processes that I'm going to go through with with each individual client, no matter what industry it's in. So
Right.
why not?
Right. Love that. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's definitely, I often wonder, it's the same thing, and not to talk about politics, but it's the same at the times of the election. It's kind of the loudest voice. It feels like it must be the only, when there's a mainstream opinion like niching down or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, everybody's talking about it, and it's like, but is everyone talking about it, or is it just like the loudest voices that you're hearing at that time? And so sometimes it's kind of pushing back against what very successful people are doing, and still following and being true to yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At some point, I always tell people, I'm like, even, especially in politics, they always wait till, it's kind of the 11th hour, right? And then everybody,
Hmm.
like you said, loud voice starts to scream, right? Because they want to drown out your thought and,
Yeah.
put their thought on top of yours. So
Yes.
tricks of the trade, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about PR in the business, from a service-based business side, and, what kinds of things should people be thinking about when they're thinking PR? Now, when I think PR, I think, big, like PR is like, oh, big. I think that, that's the wrong probably way of thinking, and that it's realistically every business needs to be thinking and considering this direction.
They do. They do. PR is, a lot of people confuse PR with marketing. They confuse it
Hmm.
with branding. And PR is neither of those things. Those are components that assist, right? Like everything kind of works in conjunction.
Right.
However, PR specifically is all about the awareness portion of a brand. And so if nobody knows that you have a product or that you created that great invention, right? Then,
Hmm.
that's where PR steps in and says, okay, let's get some attention and some eyes on this. To let the world know what you've got going on and why it's important. And most importantly, what need does it solve?
Right.
I do come across many smaller businesses that I love to help. Yet their idea of PR is like, oh, well, we have a new ice cream flavor, coming out this week.
Yeah.
And, next week it'll be different. So can we get that in the news? And you're like, okay, let's think about that. Right? Like, is it, I mean,
Yes.
yes, maybe locally we can pitch that, but like, is that something that Forbes needs to hear about? Not really, right?
Right.
So you've got to definitely make sure you're scaling when you're working with your PR rep, and being realistic about, what's plausible and what's not, because again, everybody wants to get on Oprah's, lists and that type of thing.
Right.
Realistically, does that happen for everybody? No. Does Joe Schmo just end up like that? No. Like, shooting on
Yeah.
Lucky Star in that. But PR is important for every company, even if it's just a press release about, your quarterly earnings. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can say it, but there's this young
Of
lady
course you can.
in Chicago. I was like, I don't know. I haven't met her. I actually literally am planning to meet her this week. So she doesn't even know, so surprise. But she has right. Boricua Cupcakes in Chicago.
Okay.
She was it was a feel good story for Chicago, but when I tell you it touched a nation, just like her being on local television, because she was, obviously pandemic stuff, you opened up a cupcake shop. I mean, people aren't really paying $5 for a cupcake anymore. Business is slow. And so she appeared on morning news. Orders started flooding in, and she put up a post about how now she's in the green, and she had been in the red for a couple of months, even to the point where she's so much in the green that she had to buy like new equipment, and she's going to expand just in 1 week to shipping nationwide. And I was like, girl, we need to talk. Because that type of thing right there, so I use a cupcake example. That cupcake example is a great cupcake example, right? It's like, that's a nationwide story that needs to be told. And if you don't have somebody helping you tell that story, that narrative can either get smushed very quickly, or die out fairly quickly, or be spun in a direction you don't want it to spin. I am definitely going to go visit her and try her products.
Awesome.
And, just kind of talk to her free of charge, right, about what else she can do to, to help her business. But again, that's an example of how PR worked for a small company that, didn't know whether they were going to survive next week.
So how does a business owner decide what are good opportunities and what are bad opportunities? And so, you get, we've all seen an increase in cold email and cold DMs and all these kinds of things. And everybody's got some kind of opportunity to, represent their brand or be in their article or these types of things. And so a lot of them are, paid opportunities. And so how does a business owner who's getting all of these, messages and things, how can they decide what is a good opportunity for their business or what things they should just be avoiding altogether?
First, I would advise a business to, number one, pay very close attention to the emails that you're receiving, right? So, a lot of them, 9 times out of 10, I hate to say it, are spam. And when I say spam, that doesn't mean like, it's the kitschy guy behind the computer, going, ha ha, right? Sometimes it really is, just a little darling up the street who just started a business, and they're promising a lot that they cannot deliver, right? And you want to believe that this is going to be this amazing thing. So, I know it sounds lame to say, but do your research, right? And I mean, anybody could build a website, anybody could buy followers, right? And say, I got, 1 million followers and that type of thing. Run it by 2-3 other people, whether that be in your business or somebody who's very computer savvy, because again, never click on links, by the way. I always point to, when somebody sends me a link, I always point to it with my mouse, and it'll show you at the bottom of your screen where it's going to go. And typically, not, again, 9 times out of 10, you can tell that it's probably something spammy. But in deciding on moving forward with the paid opportunity that you're going to pay somebody to do, honestly, make sure that you have a clear return on investment. Make sure you have a clear budget laid out. Because again, it's everybody there. I don't know if you remember, there was, when with Facebook and all this Instagram and whatnot, and it was all about, Facebook ads and Instagram ads and do an ad and do an ad. Yes, Facebook gets rich, Instagram gets rich, right? And you don't see any return on investment. What's happening, right? You're like, well, it was only $20, and then you did another 20, another 20, because they kept telling you to keep going. The problem is, you don't, a couple of things are happening, right? You either aren't understanding your audience, right? You aren't selecting the right demographics, but there's something going on there, and you need to know what that is and have a clear understanding before you process that payment. And if a person can't tell you that, then you need to not work with them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So focusing on the results and the tangible, return on investment, and not just it's good for business, it's good to get my name out there, brand awareness is great. Or is that to a point still offer value?
Brand awareness offer value, or is that what you're referring to?
No, to say, like, this, I'm going to be in this article, and it's going to get my name out there, and it's good for branding, those types of things. That's a lot of, people say, well, it's not too much money, and maybe it's good to just get my name out there. Is that a good train of thought, or
that not? In my business is what we call a horrible train of thought. Because
Okay.
here's the thing. With in public relations, we do earned media. What is earned media? Earned media is I have a relationship, I've built a relationship with these, with the journalist, with the station, with the outlet, whatever it is. And, I've pitched them and they're like, hey, this is a really good story that we can not just, not just for a 5-minute story, right? We can see
Yeah.
taking this multiple ways. And it costs you nothing, right? Except for your public relations fee. When you do paid media, and there's a spammy thing going on actually on Facebook with it. There, I don't know if you've seen it. This guy, he says, "Oh, I can get you on Fox in 24 hours for $97." He
Yes,
cannot.
I have seen this one.
He cannot. Okay, what it is the guy puts he has like an affiliate page, and he
Yeah.
creates like a kind of like an ad or an article where it's, oh, we mentioned you, whatever. Which is why the disclaimer, remember this, people, which is why the disclaimer says, don't contact Fox if there's an error. Contact this other information. That tells you
Right.
right there, it is not Fox. Okay.
Right.
That's doing that. So yes, earned media will take you so much further because, and I'll give you the example with the Oscars. Janora was she's a voiceover actress who also had an actress, sorry, who also had a role on Grey's Anatomy, right? And
Okay.
so we rolled that into, hey, she's going to be the voice of the Oscars. And we had some smaller outlets pick it up at first because then we already knew the bigger outlets were just going to pick it up and run with the story. So that initial earned media turned into double to triple the coverage because they took those smaller pieces of coverage and transferred them into larger, media segments. So
Right.
that's important if you want to, so make sure you don't pay. You're not, nobody, unless it's an ad, but if it's not an ad,
Yeah.
do not pay somebody to put your name in lights. Don't do
Right.
it.
Oh, come on. Sometimes it's, I feel, sometimes it's interesting. It's, sometimes when it feels too good to be true,
It is, yeah.
the Beyond Fox 24 hours, $97. There's a few variations of that. And it's so popular on Instagram as well. It's, I've got this story running and, if you pay me
Yeah.
this, I'll include you and whatnot. So yeah, very interesting. And when we're looking at these different opportunities, it's so, and I don't notice it as much, but for a while there was every single person had the same, as seen on their website, and all of the, someone's brand new and they've been as seen on everywhere. And it's, I haven't noticed it as much. Do you think there's kind of a downtrend in just, putting logos and whatnot on your website and trying to use all of these pieces purely for credibility?
Well, you know what? I don't think there's a downtrend. I think the people who actually receive that coverage should put it there and then link it. That's the important thing. You
Yes.
link it to the original or the core story. So,
Right.
it's
Yes.
evidence-based, right? It's not just, I'm just slapping 4 logos up here and saying this is what happened, right?
Right.
And even if, again, business tip here, make sure you print, when I say print, like PDF save or, actually print so you can scan it later. I'm a paper type of girl. The article, because again, links could break, there's other things, but once you do that, archive it right on your server. And then that way you can always link it to, if the link breaks, you can always link it to the actual PDF. So you do have that material, to use for future use.
Right.
But I don't think there's a downtrend in it. I think there's more of a scrubbing, fact checking type of
Yes.
thing,
Okay. Yes.
happening. And
That makes
I'm
sense.
here for it. Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. It's I was in a Facebook group the other day and someone said, "Does this mean that you work for all of these businesses?" And someone laughed and commented and made it was a tech company who had like all of these, but they were very new and they had all of these, we work for, and it was and someone said, "I don't really they're like brand new." It was just kind of like so far it was not necessarily very authentic.
Yeah, you're like, oh, so you've been around 6 months and you've been where now? And again, 1 out of a million probably, but if a
Right.
person is spouting it that way, it's probably not true. Like, probably not true.
Right. It comes back to that if it's too good to be true.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
When would you suggest that someone starts working with a PR professional like yourself or someone similar who's going to, help work and with them on some of these other opportunities.
And this is going to, I don't want this to sound crass, but it's a fact. So there's two things. One, when you have a, an item or a project, again, that solves a specific, and you need to get that information out there. And two, when you have a budget of $2,000 a month or more. And the reason I say that is because most beginning publicists will charge about $1,500 and up to retain them. A lot of people don't realize there are some, small businesses that are like, oh, I can't kind of afford that. Can I just do like an hourly or, something of that nature? Hourly ends up costing you more than the retainer. So it's best to say, okay, my budget is, $6,000 for the next 3 months. Okay, great. We can work with that. Let's do something with that. Or if you don't have that kind of budget, you can honestly say, hey, can you not necessarily teach you how to do it, because obviously that's a whole college situation that you have to go through. But, like you can say, hey, here's my products. Can you write my press release? Can you release my press release for me? Okay, fine. That's a, one-off fee and that type of thing, right? That fee may be $200-$300. So it's better if you need to piecemeal it, do it that way, but work with a professional that has relationships. And any PR rep should be able to show you a portfolio. They should be able to link, hey, this is these, look, as seen on, right? I've got my clients this coverage. I've been here, I've done this. Here, not just here's my resume, but here are my references. And I'm going to be honest too, in the PR world, we focus ourselves so much on our clients that we tend to forget to say, hey, client, can you leave me a recommendation? Because a lot of our business is word of mouth. So, you don't even think to say, even though like we're trained to do it for our clients, we're not doing it for ourselves, because we're like, oh yeah, I should have asked for that. You know what I mean? But we do get it. Obviously, people are satisfied with their business, but yeah.
Well, I know how to automate that process for you. If you need that, you let me know. That's my area of expertise.
All right.
There you go. So when it comes to things like testimonials and whatnot, we've got Google reviews. There's some ongoing issues with Google reviews being removed, and the Google algorithm is a bit of a work in progress at the moment. And you've got things like Facebook and Yelp and whatnot. Originally, the text review on a website was sufficient. Noticing a lot more video testimonials now. How are you, depending on the industry, I hear a lot of my clients specifically say that their clients don't necessarily want everyone to know that they're using them, because it's either their secret, it's like their secret weapon, or they want to be able to just kind of pretend that they did it on their own. And so, do you find that that's a little bit in the PR industry, that you're kind of working behind the scenes, and so sometimes someone doesn't want to scream from the rooftops, hey, I had a professional help me with this?
Absolutely. More and more, like there was a time in life, right, in PR life, where people were like, yes, my agency is this person, or my PR rep is this person. In the music industry, or entertainment, honestly, standard to say my publicist is, right, because of course they always want to deflect. But in every other industry, especially small businesses and not-for-profits, they really want you not to say anything. They don't want. So what I do is, in addition to my NDA, or it's in my NDA, my non-disclosure agreement with my clients, that, I won't release your name. Obviously, I won't, take your, any of your proprietary information, but I won't release your name without your permission, right? And under any circumstance, for 5 years. After the 5th year, then I can say, okay, I worked with, Susie and that type of thing. I can say it publicly. But in every agreement, I have that in there, just because there are a lot of people who they just don't. And I have a list of those people that I've worked with myself that, you would never know that I was behind all of it. But and it's kind of a double-edged sword though, in that respect, because it's like you kind of want to toot your horn. You're like, I was behind that project, or I was, behind all this media coverage, or this, this thing. And you can't. You just can't.
Yes. And I think, it definitely, certain industries more than others, no one's gonna say, oh, I didn't take my car to the mechanic. But, I joke because I a few years ago went in and got some Botox in the forehead because I was looking a little stressed, a little tired. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, what? Like one day I was wrinkle free, and the next day I was like, what happened? Something happened overnight. And so I went in, and on the way out, they were asking for Google reviews. And in exchange for the Google review, they were going to give you a $50 MasterCard, like Visa prepaid, $50 just to leave that review, which is actually illegal. But anyway, according to
Yes,
Google,
of
you're
course.
not allowed to incentivize people leaving your reviews at all. But so
Right.
here they are, and I thought $50. I mean, it really paid for like whole part of the service, and I was like, okay. But then I thought, but then my name is going to say that my Botox experience was awesome.
Yes.
I don't know if I want that. And so now I can joke about it now, but in that moment when I was really feeling insecure about and like rushing off to get, my forehead fixed, I'm thinking, I don't really want to do that. You keep your $50.
Yeah. And you know what? That is the great, oh my God, I love it. That's a great example. I'm sorry.